Hello everyone, my name is Arohi and welcome to my channel. So guys, in my today's video we will learn how to use RAG with LLMs to improve their responses. We'll understand how RAG works and why it is important, and then we will learn how to integrate RAG with LLM to make LLM responses more accurate and up to date. So for this tutorial we will be using LangGraph, RAG and LLM from Hugging Face. That means to use the LLM, you don't need any kind of API key. We will directly download the LLM from Hugging Face and then we will use it. So let's start. First, let's understand why do we need RAG. So standard LLMs, they can't update themselves after training. So they give us, sometimes they give us outdated or incorrect answers, right? Means LLMs learn from a fixed data set, which means don't update after training. So for example, if you ask what is the latest AI breakthrough in 2025, so the AI model which is trained in 2024 won't know the answer because it hasn't learned anything new. So the first problem with the standard LLMs are that they can't access new information. LLM only know what they were trained on, so they don't have access to latest updates, news or new research. The second problem is these models don't work well with the private data because they are not trained on your private data. So suppose you have some company's internal documents. So LLM will not know what is there in those documents. So if you'll ask the question related to those internal documents, then LLM will not reply. LLM will not give you good replies, right? So this is the second problem. And the third problem is these standard LLMs hallucinate. Means they generate false or misleading information. Why they provide misleading information? Because they do not fact check in real time. Now the next question is, can we solve these problems? So yes, we can solve these problems. How we can solve these problems? We can fine tune the LLMs, right? We can retrain the LLM with new data, but this process takes lot of time and money. Plus new information comes every day. So how often will you retrain? It's not practical to keep updating the model frequently. So now the next question is, how can we solve these problems then? So to make LLMs more accurate and up to date, we can use RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. So RAG helps our LLM model fetch real-time information from external sources before generating an answer. So let's understand this. Look at this picture. So user asked a question. Okay, so let's say user asked the question, latest AI trends. Okay, so this is the question user asked and we are in 2025. So let's say the LLM which you have, suppose the LLM which you have, it has the information till 2024, but user asked latest AI trends in 2025. Now in this case, how RAG will help the LLM to get the new latest update? So for that, see, this RAG means retrieval augmented generation. We have three different tasks: retrieval, augmentation and generation. Let's understand these things one by one. So the task starts with the retriever. So retriever search the external knowledge. This external knowledge can be anything. This can be different URLs, articles, right, books, it can be anything, external knowledge. Okay, so retriever will search the different sources and it will find out the relevant knowledge and it will provide that relevant knowledge to the retriever. So in our case, when user asks latest AI trends, retriever search the web, search the different articles, and then it fetched 5 or 6, let's say, different articles. Now retriever have the latest AI trends. Now in next step, in augmentation, the query which user asked, what is the query user asked? User asked latest AI trend. So this question and the relevant information which retriever fetched, this text means the relevant information which retriever fetched and the user query, we are joining them. So over here, these two things will go to the next step, which is generation. In generation, we have our LLM, our standard LLM, right? Now this standard LLM have the question of the user. It will also have the updated text updated information, and on the basis of the question, on the basis of the updated text, and on the basis of the knowledge which LLM have, it will create the updated answer. Now your model will provide the reply to a user on the basis of latest data. How it is fetching the latest data? Because retriever searched the external knowledge and it fetched the relevant knowledge, and then it passed on that relevant knowledge to the LLM, and using that external knowledge which retriever fetched, our LLM will generate the response. So guys, here see, we are not retraining our model, we are not fine tuning our model, we are only providing external source to retriever, and then our LLM is generating response on the basis of that retrieved document. Now let's see another example. Suppose user asked the question, what are the latest NVIDIA AI advancements? When user asks this question, retriever search for the most relevant and latest sources. So it looks for the news article, research papers, or NVIDIA official website to find out the up-to-date information. So let's say it find these two links. One is this, okay, and the second link it found is this. All right. So the first document which retriever found out is NVIDIA release a TensorRT LLM to make AI processing faster. And the second article which it found out is NVIDIA launches Jetson Orin Nano Super. Okay, so these are the document which it found. And another document it found is NVIDIA announces RTX 5000 GPUs. All right, so these are the three different articles which retriever found out. Now, in this augmentation step, the question which user asked, this question and these three articles are combined. Now this we fed to LLM to the generation step. Over here, LLM will see the question which user asked, and it will also see the retrieved document, the relevant information, and LLM will generate the response. So the final response it generated is that NVIDIA has recently made several AI advancements, and in January 2025 they introduced TensorRT LLM, improving AI processing speed, and then in February they launched Jetson Orin Nano for edge AI application. NVIDIA announced the RTX 5000 GPUs. So this is the response generated by our LLM. So this answer is now more accurate and up to date, and it is based on the real sources. So this is why RAG is powerful, because it keeps your model updated with the latest knowledge. It also reduces the problem of hallucination, and this also saves time and cost because we are not retraining our model. And then in conclusion, we can say that RAG transforms our LLM model from a static model into a dynamic real-time information assistant. So this is what RAG is. Now let's see the practical implementation. So we are going to run our today's code on Google Colab. So first thing is to select the GPU. For that, click on edit and then notebook settings, and then make sure you have selected GPU, T4 GPU, and then click on save. So this is how you select the GPU. Next task is to install all the required modules which are needed to run our today's code. So these are the modules. We are installing LangChain, LangChain Core, LangChain Community, LangGraph, LangChain Hugging Face, Transformers, and Torch. So guys, these three modules are required because we are using Hugging Face. So if you are not using the LLM from Hugging Face, then these three modules are not needed. We are installing LangGraph because we want to use LangGraph to build our today's application, and LangGraph is built on LangChain, so that's why we need these three modules. So run it and install all these requirements. So in my case, I have already installed the requirement, so that's why you are seeing this requirement already satisfied. Now let's move to the next cell. Now I'll show you the document which we are going to use for our today's tutorial. So this document will work as an external knowledge. We will provide this document to the retriever, and retriever will find out the relevant information from it as per the user's question. So what I'm doing is I'm using this document. See, This is the official LangGraph page where they have explained about LangGraph. So guys, what we are trying to do is, we know that with every latest version of LangGraph, there are some modifications in the code or how to import the libraries, like these kind of things. So today we will provide this external knowledge to our LLM, and then we can ask questions to the LLM, and our LLM will provide the answers based on the latest LangGraph version. Okay, so this link you can copy it from here, and then now we will use this link over here, because first task is to load the document. If you want to use this document, first we need to load this document. And how we load the document in LangGraph? See, this is how I'm loading. So this is a web page, right? So to load the web page, there are different loaders you can use. So I'm using unstructured URL loader. To use this loader, you first need to install it like this. Okay. Once you install this loader, in URLs, you will provide the URL which you want to provide to your model as a external knowledge. So this is the URL. Over here, I'm using single URL. You can provide multiple URLs. Just put comma and in single quotes, write the second URL. In the same way, if you want to provide one more URL, put comma and then in this single quote, write that URL. Okay. So for today's tutorial, we are focusing on one URL only. Next step is, we are calling it over here and we are providing the URL, this URL, and then using the load function, we are loading it. So guys, in LangChain, there are different data loaders, because it is not necessary that every time you will have your data on web pages and you're loading web pages, right? Sometimes your data can be in a PDF file, sometimes your data can be in a CSV file or whatever format, right? So there are different loaders for each kind of data. So if you want to see what all data loaders are there, so just write loaders in LangGraph, and this first link, let's open it. So see, these are the different loaders. So if you want to load a CSV file, then you will import a CSV loader and you will use it like this. And if you want to load the web pages, then these are the different loaders. Today we are using this one, unstructured. In the same way, these are the different data loaders which you can use to load web pages. If you want to load PDF files, then these are the different data loaders you can use. In the same way, you can scroll down and you can see various different data loaders. Okay. So now let's run it, and our data is loaded in this docs now. So we can print this docs and we can see if our data is present in this variable or not. So just go to the next cell, write docs over here. Oh, just copy docs from here. Let's print it and let's see. So it will show you all the data which is present at this web page. So see, it is still loading the data. So see, this is the data we have at, this is the data, right? Where we have this data we have in the docs variable and this docs variable where we have loaded our document, right? This is so much of data, see, right? Now, if you will feed all this data at once to your LLM, what will happen? See, this is a big document, right? So if you will feed this whole data at once to your LLM, what will happen? See, we have two problems over here. First problem is, some of the models even don't have this much context window. Context window simply means how many characters your model can have in one go. How many characters your model can process in one go. So these are so many characters, and some of the models don't have this kind of context window, so they can't handle this much of data, right? And the other problem is, let's say if your LLM have a context window which can handle this much of data, but still your LLM will be slow, because your LLM has to process this whole data in order to generate an answer. This is a big document, right? So your LLM will take time to process this whole document and then to generate an output. So to solve these two problems, there is a solution. What is the solution? We can divide this big document into smaller chunks. Let's understand what I'm saying. So see here. So this is a big document. Let's say this is the Landgraf updated page. Okay. And this have 50,000 characters. Let's say this page has 50,000 characters. And I have told you that some models have a context window which cannot handle 50,000 characters at once. So if we divide this big document into smaller chunks like this, and each chunk have 1,000 character, each chunk has 1,000 character. Okay, every chunk. What is the benefit of doing it? Now, instead of feeding 50,000 characters to your model at once, now we are only feeding 1,000 characters. What is the benefit of doing it? It will speed up the process, right? And even if the model context window is small, and your model can easily accept 1K characters. And we can only give that document to the LLM which is related to the user query. If user asks the question, let's say user asks some question and the answer of that question is over here. So we can only provide this document to our LLM, and then our LLM will reply fast because this is just 1,000 character, right? So that is why we divide the big document into smaller chunks. Now let's see how we can do that with the coding. So to divide the big document into smaller chunks, we can use recursive character text splitter. We are importing it from here. We are calling the splitter over here chunk size and chunk overlap. Let's understand these two things. Chunk size simply means the document, the bigger document, when we are dividing into a smaller document, then each smaller document will have 1,000 characters. Okay. And the chunk overlap, let's understand this with example. So I've told you that this big document had 50,000 characters, and then we divided it into smaller chunks, and each chunk has 1K characters. Now the next thing is to understand chunk overlap. Chunk overlap. When I write chunk overlap 3 and the chunk size I'm writing is 10. See this example. I'll make you understand with the help of this example. So suppose this is the entire text and I've mentioned chunk size 10 and chunk overlap 3. 10 means from here to J. This is the first chunk. And chunk 2, okay, this is the first chunk. See here. Chunk 1 will have this much of data. Now in chunk 2, you will notice that the last 3 characters which are written over here, Hij, are also present in the beginning of the next chunk. This is the chunk overlap. Overlap means the few characters from the last document should be added to the beginning of the second chunk. This is called chunk overlap. And see, this PQR from second chunk is added to the in the starting of the third chunk. What is the benefit of it? So guys, see, when we read some documents, papers or books, there are different paragraphs. Okay. So let's say first paragraph is a one document and second paragraph is a second document. So let's say something is present in the first paragraph which is not present in the second paragraph. And if we will not use the overlap, what will happen that the second document will not have idea what is present in the first document. It will not have any context from the previous data. So that way your application, your LLM will not give you good reply because it does not know the context, right? So with this overlapping, we are just giving the context to next document about the previous document. Okay, so that's what this chunk overlap is. Here the chunk size is 1000 and we are saying that every document, when we will divide this document into smaller document, every document will have 1000 characters. and every document will have 200 characters from the last document. So this is what this recursive character text splitter will do. And then using this split documents, we are splitting the documents. What is this docs? Remember here, in this docs, we have loaded our document. Okay. So using this dot split documents, we are splitting the documents, and now we have all the chunks present in all splits. So you can print it, and this line will show you how many different chunks, we have after splitting this document into the chunk size of this. So let's run it. So we have 98 documents, 98 chunks. Each chunk is of size 1000. Now let's say you want to see one of the chunk. So you can write like this, all splits, because everything is present in all splits now. This 7 means the chunk which is present at this index. Print that. See, these are the 1000 characters which are present at this chunk. The document, the page source is this, the actual content is this. Okay, so these kind of 98 documents we have now. So now we have the external data source, which is our URL, which shows the latest LangGraph work. And then we divided that big document into smaller chunks. Next step is, see guys, now our model will not understand if we provide this kind of input to it. So we first need to convert the text into numbers. So in natural language processing task, what we does? Our model doesn't understand the string, right? So we need to convert it into numbers. For that, we use embedding model. So for my today's tutorial, we are using the embedding model from Hugging Face only. So guys, there are various embedding models. You can use embedding model from OpenAI or Google, but as I've told you, we are not going to use any kind of API keys in our today's tutorial. So we are going to use the model from Hugging Face, embedding model from Hugging Face. That embedding model will convert this kind of document into numbers, which our model will use. Okay, so let's do that. See this. First, we are importing Hugging Face embeddings from this module. Here we are initializing it in embeddings variable. This is how you use the embedding model from Hugging Face. In these two lines, I'm just showing you, we are just checking if this model is loaded properly or if this model is working or not. So we will provide this text to it and we will see if our model is converting it into some sort of numbers or IDs, okay, into embeddings. So for that, embeddings dot embed query, and write the text which you want to convert into embeddings, and then when you'll print it, you will see some sort of numbers. See guys, here. So we got 5 numbers. Why we are getting 5 numbers? Because over here I've mentioned that I want to see the first 5 embedding values. Okay, so that's why. So these kind of numbers we want to generate for all the documents, and for that we want to use Hugging Face embedding. So this part is just to show you if it is working or not properly. Now let's see how to convert all our 98 documents into the embeddings. For that we are using this. Okay guys, before moving to this embedding part, let me tell you one more thing. So we are importing Chroma over here. So Chroma is a vector database. Vector database, why we need vector database? Because when we will convert our documents into embeddings into these kind of data, then to store these embeddings, we need a vector database, and Chroma is a vector database. So first you will install it like this, and once you install it, you can import it like this. And then in this line, we are performing 2 tasks. Guys, first we are importing, here we are all splits. What is there in the all splits? Are 98 documents. Remember, all split is a variable. See, all split is a variable where we have used the text splitter to split the bigger document into smaller documents, and we got 98 chunks. So First, we are loading all those 98 documents. We are applying Hugging Face embeddings on it. We are using Hugging Face embedding model on it to convert all the 98 documents into embeddings. And then we are storing those embeddings into Chroma. So guys, when we run this cell, let's run it. So when we run this cell, what happens is that this Chroma vector store works in the background. Chroma database store all the embeddings of these 98 documents temporary. Okay, so now let's say you don't want to store those embeddings temporary, you want to store the embeddings permanently, so that in future if you want to use those embeddings, then there should be no need to perform this embedding step again. Okay, so you can store the embeddings permanently also, and then later on whenever you want to use those embeddings, you can directly load the embeddings from the database. So if you want to do that, then you can use this way. See, the entire code is same. The only thing which I added is this persist directory, and then in current directory it will create a folder with the name of my Chroma DB, and in that folder it will store all the embeddings. Today I'm showing you the example on Google Colab, so that's why I'm not storing the database like this. But if you are working on a local computer and if you have a huge data set and to create the embedding every time takes time, then you can only run it for one time and save it like this, and then later on you can load it. Let me show you how to load it. So this is how you can load it. See, vector store, Chroma, persist directory. This is the same directory, and this directory will be in your current working directory. There is no need to create this directory manually. When you run this code, this directory will be automatically created, and inside that you will have a database which will have your embeddings. So now using this, we are loading the embedding. Right guys, so I have explained you both the ways how to run the vector store like this and how to save the database and then later on use it. Let's run it. So we have converted our data into embedding. Those embeddings will be the input to the model. So let's use the LLM now. So this is how you can use the LLM. This is the model which I want to use. The LLM which I want to use is Falcon 7B. Let's say if you want to use Meta Llama 3, then you can use like this. Okay, and then we are creating a pipeline. In this pipeline we are defining the model. So our model is this, and then max new token means the output our LLM will generate will have maximum 200 tokens, and device 0 means CUDA, temperature, and top K 50. That means we are filtering out the low probability tokens. And in LLM variable, we are calling this Hugging Face pipeline, and the pipeline which we have created, we are providing it. So now in our LLM variable, we have a Hugging Face pipeline which will use the LLM from Hugging Face, and it will generate the output, and that output will have maximum 200 characters. So let's run it. Now our LLM is also ready. Now we have loaded the model. Next step is we will write the prompt now. So I have shown you two different ways to write prompt. This one, see, I'm using this one. This simply means we are not writing the prompt ourselves. There is a prompt already available at a LangChain hub. So we are just pulling the RAG prompt from there. Okay. So this is the one way to use a prompt. Let's say if you don't want to use this prompt, you can write your own prompt also. And for that, you will write this. First, you will import the prompt template from here. Then you will define the template. In this template, we are defining context and question. So context and question. Now, if you'll go back to this picture again, see what will be the input to this LLM? User's query and the text. Which text? The relevant knowledge which retriever retrieved from the external database, right? That text and the user's question will go to LLM. So this text is a context, and from where we are getting this context? From retriever. So that's what we are doing. The question over here is the user question, and the context over here is the retrieved document which matches the user query the most. So how we are going to get this context, how we are going to get the matching document from 98 documents which we have in our use case. So out of those 98 documents, the document which will match the user query the most, that document will be the context over here. And how we are going to get that? With the help of retriever. Okay, I'll show you that part in some time, but just for now, always remember, when you write the prompt for RAG application, you will provide the context and the question, okay, and the helpful answer. Here your LLM will generate the answer. So this is our template, and this is how you prepare the prompt. But for my today's tutorial, I'm using this ready-made prompt, okay, which is already there. I'm just pulling it, run it. Now our prompt is also ready. So guys, as I've told you, we are going to build the application in LangGraph. So in LangGraph, we have state. State means the message from user and bot. We store it somewhere, right? For that we use state. So we are going to write the code for that state now. So we are importing list and typedict from here. And we have created a class with the name of state. And this class have these three things. This question will have the question of user. Context will have the relevant document which matches the user query the most. Answer will have the answer which our LLM generated on the basis of this context and on this question. Okay, so this is what we have in our state. Run it. Now we will build a function, retriever function. That retriever function will go to the vector database, and from that vector database, it will see which document is matching with the user query. So remember, we have stored embeddings in Chroma database, right? So all those embeddings, we will perform the similarity with this user's question, and the question and the document which has the highest similarity, that document will be chosen as context. Let me show you how to write that function. So this is the function, retrieve. Function name is retrieve, and the state we are providing to it. So what is there in the state for retriever? What will be the input to the retriever? So whatever is there in this state will be the input to the retriever. And right now user asked the question. So what is there in the state? The question which user asked. That question is in this retriever function. Then from vector store. Vector store, remember we have used a Chroma database. Vector store. In this variable we have that Chroma database, right? Vector store dot similarity search. Using this similarity search, we will perform the similarity check between the user question and the embeddings which are there in the Chroma database. The user question. From where we are getting the user question? From the state. User question is getting getting checked, similarity checked with the embeddings which are there in the vector store. And K1 means fetch the top one record which matches the user query the most. And in retrieved document, now we have that document which matches the user query the most, and we stored it in context. Remember here in state context. Now using this retrieve function, we are getting the data in context. Here we have the question of user, here we have the context, and to get this context we use this retrieve function. This retrieve function is performing the similarity search between the user's question and the embeddings which are there in the vector store, and finally it will return the context. Now the next step is to generate the response. Now we have the question and we have the context. Now the next task is to generate the response on the basis of these two things. So this is the function. We have a generate function, and it is also having the state. Now generate function have the users, this state have the question of the user and the context, right? This is the augmentation step, guys. Let's go to this diagram again. What we are doing in augmentation: query, the question which user asked, plus the text. What is this text? context. From where we are getting the context? From the retriever. So query and the context, that part is getting done over here. This is the user question, this is the context, we have it in messages. We are calling the prompt over here. So remember, in prompt I've told you that in RAG prompt we provide the user question and the context together. So that's what we are calling the prompt, and we are giving the question which user asked and the related document, and it is stored in messages. Now this will go to the LLM, this will become the input to the LLM, and LLM will generate the response. LLM, we are calling the LLM using .invoke and we are providing this to it. Now LLM have the question which user asked and the context, LLM generated the response. That response we are storing it in answer. Now go back and say answer. So the response which our LLM generated will come here. The context we are getting from the retriever. This is the question which user asked. So the final output which we will have now, that output will show us the question which we asked and the context and the final answer. Let's run it. Now guys, if you want to test this, we need to create a state graph, because in LangGraph we work everything in a state graph. So we need to create a state graph. So let's create a state graph for this code. For that I'm importing the state graph. In graph builder we are calling the state graph. Add sequence, we are providing the retrieve function and the generate function. See, retrieve function and generate function, we are providing that over here. Then we are adding the edge. So this is the start node. We are not creating the start node because we can import it like this. Start node will is connected with the retrieve node, and then we are compiling the graph. If you want to see what kind of graph looks like when we write this kind of code, so let me show you that. First let's see the graph. Whatever I have written over here, let's see what kind of graph we are having. For that click on add, write this and then run. See, start node. From start node we have another node with the name of retrieve. This retrieve will generate the response, and retrieve function will work and generate function will work, and finally it will generate the output. So this is we have the graph ready. A graph is compiled. Now we can test this application. So to test this application, I'm just invoking the graph. I'm calling this graph. When we'll call this graph, retrieve node will work, and then retrieve and generate function will work. Okay. Our question is, the question I asked is, what is LangGraph? And then we are showing the response. Let's run it. When we will run, guys, I've told you that it will show us the output in this format. First it will show the question, context, and then the answer. Let's run it. See, human, the question, first of all, this is the prompt. Question, what is LangGraph? Context, this is the context. Till here, this is the context. What is there in context? LangGraph is a part of LangChain ecosystem, which is a leading platform in AI development. Recent update and feature, LangGraph Cloud, LangGraph Platform, and LangGraph Server, LangGraph Studio, right? So first we have question, then we have context, and then on the basis of this context and context, it generated this answer. So guys, this is how you can use RAG with your LLM. And in this case, our LLM is replying on the basis of the latest information. And here you can see we are not retraining our model. We are not fine-tuning our model. We are just providing the external sources, the latest sources, with the help of this data loaders. So the link of this code is mentioned in description section. You can get this code from there, and I hope this video is helpful. And guys, if you like my content, please like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you for watching.